Hey you guys, it's Peter, and welcome to my channel, Peterisms, where I tell stories of my life and just little things that I have learned as I have grown into the person that I am today. And I was just sitting here reading through some comments from my last few videos, and I found like 4 or 5 different video topics. So I have videos for the next couple days, but if you have something that you want me to talk about, please put it in the comment section below. Just say, hey Peter, a topic I'd like you to discuss, or could you make a video on this, or whatever, and I will screenshot it and get to it eventually. But I was going through these comments, and I got this comment, and this is from somebody that I think has left, I mean, it was a nice comment the way that it was said, and I actually think it was kind of like in defense of me, but it brought up an interesting topic that I want to kind of like share with you guys, something that I feel very strongly about. So in a video that I was doing a couple days ago, let me see what video it was on. It was on my videos, My Truth versus the Truth. I was talking there about, like a couple months before I got sober or went into treatment, and you know, it's interesting, like when I say that, like in my head, what I think of versus how it probably sounds. Like when I got sober, I think sounds like a really positive thing, right? But when I think about those last few months of just like never really getting out of bed until late in the afternoon, and the bed being covered like an ashtray and, you know, turned over and alcohol bottles, and that place was disgusting, and I just wasn't taking care of myself and whatever. Like, it was a long descent into hell. It was not pretty. I don't even remember many of those days and things like that. Was in a constant state of blackout, was using so many substances. It just was, I mean, the fact that I'm even still here is beyond. And so, I don't, like, know an appropriate word or phrase to use for what happened on December 17th. That I say that's the day I got sober, because that's the day that I, you know, my first day of not using when I was in treatment. But I don't know what to say as far as, like, to explain it that way to people. Because I think I say, like, when I say when I got sober, for me, even that, like, if somebody said to me, oh, when I got sober, I think, oh, that's a positive, like, that's a strength, right? Not thinking about, like, the days leading up to that. And I think as addicts and alcoholics in recovery, like, those days are, even though they're very murky in our memory, they're clear to us in just how horrible they were, you know? And so some of the worst days ever of my entire life existed within those months leading up to recovery. So I was sharing a video the other day about how I had this girl that was staying with me. I think I called her a roommate in my video, but she wasn't even really a roommate. She was just like staying with me on my couch, and she had stayed there for, I don't know, like long over her welcome. I was kind of ready for her to go, in all honesty, but she had made some comment to me, like I came home one day and she was like packing up and ready to go and leave. And I said something to her, like, I mean, I was glad. I was like, I've shared the story a lot in my vlog, and I was like, you know, don't let the door hit you where the good Lord splits you kind of thing. I was like, I was ready for her to go, right? And she's packing up her stuff, and I said, where are you going? And she said, I'm leaving. I can't sit here and watch this anymore. Or something. I can't remember exactly how she said it. I mean, it's been, you know, 29, 30. It's been 30 years, probably, well, almost 30 years. And she said, you know, you're like slowly like throwing your life away and dying, and I can't continue to watch it. And if you don't get help, I'm gonna have no other alternative than to tell your dad, right? And I said in the video, like, how pissed I was at the time, like, how dare her and things like that, you know? And I want to say this very clearly. She did not go and tell my dad. Like, she threatened that, but I don't think she did. Because I got, that would have been, like, very close to, it wouldn't have been, like, she was living there, like, months before, but it would have been, I can't ever remember the exact timing, but it would have been, like, very close to when I got sober, because there wasn't, maybe she did call my dad. I don't really remember, but my dad found out on his own because I ended up going into treatment. So somebody left this comment on my video, and they said, I think your friend telling you that she was going to tell your dad was not okay. She can say, if you keep on living like that, I will take a step back from our friendship, but putting pressure on you by telling your dad is not a boundary, that's control. Actually, it is 100% a boundary. I think it's a very healthy boundary. So, I'm just going to disagree with you on this, and you don't have to agree with me, but I want to say this. What I know today at 29 years sober, that maybe I didn't know at the time, obviously, when I was still in active addiction and using, I was very pissed at her. The reason that I was pissed at her was because, there's so many things I could say about this comment. I mean, this is, I feel like for years I walked on eggshells with people and was very, very afraid of saying anything and whatever, afraid of setting boundaries and whatever. That was a friend that was willing to have somebody that hated her, than a dead friend. And I'm forever grateful for her friendship. It was absolutely 100% a boundary. It was a healthy boundary for her to set. It was a boundary that she was saying, I love you enough that I am willing to do the thing that's going to piss you off the most because I care enough about your life. And if I say something to your dad, I know your dad will step in and I cannot see you die. That's what she was saying to me, and not so many words, right? At that time, I didn't know that, but I've actually shared in videos, my vlog since then, that I called her up years later, and I was like, I thanked her. I was like, you're the only person at that time. I had a lot of people around me that knew my parents. I had a lot of people that knew to the extent of my drug abuse and my use and things like that, right? That many of them were using with me. I drank with her back in the day, you know? Many of them that knew how bad it was that would never have done that, right? Either because they didn't feel like it was their place, maybe they felt like what you were saying, it was controlling me or whatever. And I remember when I called her and she said, Peter, I didn't really have any other options, but I didn't want to see another friend of mine die. We had had several friends of ours die from overdoses at that point. She said, I didn't know what to do, but I didn't want to see one more friend of mine die. And that was why she did what she did, right? And I know that to some people that might seem like control or whatever. I will tell you today, there are two things that I don't really give a shit if somebody thinks it's controlling. I don't care if somebody never wants to speak to me again over it. I don't really care if somebody is so angry at me. I think we need to stop being worried about people being angry at us and loving people hard. Okay? It's not about trying to control somebody. She wasn't trying to control me because she left my life. That wasn't a control thing. If her control was, I'm trying to control you to get you to stop using drugs and alcohol because you're killing yourself, then that was a pretty healthy way to try to want to control somebody. I'm not really sure why that would be your stance. So that's confusing to me. And I don't think that was, but I'm not really sure what she was trying to control because she packed up her bags and left and said, the only other option that I have is to call your dad and tell him. And she was terrified for me. I know that because I talked to her. She was terrified for me, and I've shared that in videos, you know? And the thing is, there's two things that I don't joke around with. There's, period, two things I do not joke around with, okay? And I don't care if it pisses people off. I don't care if they think I'm trying to control them. I don't care if somebody thinks that I'm overstepping my boundaries. I don't care if somebody never wants to talk to me again. There are two things that I do not joke around with, okay? And one is when somebody is in the midst of their hardcore addiction. I'm not talking about going out one night a week and getting drunk in a bar. And I don't know if maybe like I have misrepresented my addiction at the end, but by the end, I was eating pills all day long. I was smoking crack cocaine. I was drinking a 1.5 fifths of Jack Daniels a day. On top of that, malt liquor and beer. I was drinking all day, every day. I was living in and out of blackouts. I was ending at places that I didn't know where I was. I had drug dealers that were putting loaded guns in my mouth, okay? Making me simulate oral sex on a gun, a loaded gun that was cocked. I was using any substance that anybody would give me. I've said this in many, many videos. The only reason I'm not a heroin addict is because nobody really offered it to me. I would have used it. Similar goes to crystal methamphetamine. It just wasn't really that, you know, rampant at the time that I was using. So it was bad. It was really bad. I'm not talking about somebody that's drinking a little bit and they're sad. I'm talking about, which that can be problematic for that person as well. I'm talking about, it was off the charts. I mean, it was literally like how I was like hanging an inch from my bottom of death, okay? And people were very, very worried about me that were around or they had already left, okay? Because they just couldn't watch it. It wasn't just like she was trying to control me to say, I don't want you to go out and party and have any fun anymore. And I don't know if I've misrepresented my addiction, but it was bad. I mean, it wasn't garden variety, okay? It wasn't like I'm going to the bar after work and I'm having 2 beers and then I'm going home. It was not that. I mean, it was death's door. It was bad. And, you know, the two things that I don't joke about are, number one, when somebody is in that kind of active addiction, I will go to whatever lengths it takes. I will call whatever family members, grandparents, brothers, sisters, spouses. I don't give a shit. Because I care about their life. I will, if it pisses them off, I will do whatever I have to do. I have been part of 12-step calls at 2 o'clock in the morning when I go with people to get somebody out of somewhere and take them to a treatment facility. Some of them go back out. Some of them stay sober forever. I don't care. I'm in the business of saving lives. I'm in the business of sharing my story to save lives. If me trying to set boundaries for somebody, if me telling a parent that's unaware of the lengths that that addiction is, or if me telling a spouse what they should or shouldn't do when they ask for suggestions, if that is controlling, okay, fine, I'm trying to save somebody's life. The other thing I don't joke about is when somebody says they're going to take their life. You want to get a quick phone call from the police? That is the quickest phone call I will ever make. I do not joke about that. I have had several people in my life follow through with that, and I do not joke about that at all. Period. End of story. Period. End of story. Somebody says that to me in person, I'm like, are you serious about this? Like, this is your plan? They're like, yep. I'm like, immediately. Either while I'm talking to them on the phone, texting somebody, like, you need to call and get a wellness check done, you need to call the police, blah, 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 whatever this is going on, keep them on the phone. If they hang up on me, I call the police, I say this is immediate, whatever. I have to do that. I wouldn't say a lot in my life, but I've done it a couple times. If that's controlling, that's controlling. I don't care. I care about people in my life enough that I want to save lives. So I don't necessarily feel like that was her trying to control me. So this was the one thing I wanted to say, and I want to make this clear. I don't feel like your comment was negative towards me in any way. I felt it was actually kind of defensive towards me, actually. Like, you were kind of like, okay, this friend was trying to control you. I got what you were saying, right? But I want to say this, that the more I get sober, the more I've been sober, almost kind of the more hardcore I take this stuff, because the more people I've seen pass, the more people I've seen go back out there and ruin their lives, the more people, I mean, I've seen my fair share of people come in a 12-step program and go out and they're successful drinking and smoking weed and stuff like that. There's a few of those, right? But there's a lot of people that go back out and they don't ever make it back in, and they die, or they end up incarcerated, or they destroy their lives through, you know, losing their families, losing their kids. They never get to see their kids again, and they lose their jobs, and they're homeless and things. I mean, I've seen that happen a lot. It's not just death, right? It can be years and years and years of horrific living, that a lot of those people come back in and they're like, it was worse than if I had died, because I just was living this living death every single day, you know? Today, I wish for the last 29 years, I had each and every day taken it as seriously as my friend had taken it that day. I wish for the last 29 and a half years, for the people around me, I had seen so clearly what she saw and was willing to stand up and do whatever it took to keep people that I love alive and go to those lengths. You know, I think through the years, I've walked on eggshells around people. I've been afraid of saying things to piss people off because I didn't want to hurt them, you know? I mean, I don't care today. I don't care if I have nobody in my life. I'd rather piss everybody off that's in my life if they're, like, in trouble, and try to help them stay alive and have one more day that they can actually see some hope, that there's change in this world and they can have a better life, than not do something that could actually help that. I wish I had taken it serious 29, 30 years ago, you know? So I understand your comment, but I just wanted to address that. You know, when it comes to things like drugs and alcohol, it comes to mental health issues, don't take those things lightly. Don't just be like, oh, next week I'll have that conversation with them. Oh, next week. Somebody called me, this was probably like 2 weeks ago, and they were telling me a story about somebody in their family and whatever. This is somebody that's not sober. And they were like, I know you're sober, like, do you think that I should have the conversation with them? And they were telling me some pretty scary stuff. And I said, if you're asking me today if you should have the conversation, you know you should have already had the conversation. So they said, so you're telling me I should have the conversation? I said, I don't think you're going to feel okay if something bad happens and you don't. And they said, no, you're absolutely right. You know, those are the moments where if we feel like we should say something, do, you know? It's like when we go to music festivals, they always say at music festivals over the intercom, if you see something, say something. We live in a society where we're so afraid to do that. We're more afraid of pissing somebody off, or our fear of them that they think we're trying to control them or do whatever, than we are about really giving a shit about somebody. I care about people. I love people. I don't want people to suffer today, you know? And if that means I have to do something that's going to make them upset, I'm okay with that today. You know? Anyway, I just wanted to share that with you. I take this stuff very, very seriously. And that was one thing I wish I had known 30 years ago. I wish I would have taken stuff with people around me more seriously. I don't know that it would have made a change. I don't know that it would have made a difference. But I would have known I at least tried. Anyway, let me know what you think in the comment section below. I love you guys, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.